He proposed at sunset. And I should have said yes. I should have smiled like the woman I was trying so hard to be, put together, healed, finally ready to move on. Instead, I froze. The ring in his hand stole the air from my lungs. We were standing on a coastal cliff near San Pietro. The sea below glowed amber under the falling sun. Damien had just delivered a quiet, perfect speech about fate, timing, and second chances. His words were warm. His eyes steady. I'd felt them on me the whole evening, like they were searching for something more than just love, something like permission. But I couldn't move. Because the ring he was holding was my mother's. I didn't mean like my mother's. I meant hers. The same thin gold band, the same oval emerald in the center, the same delicate leaf motifs curling around the stone. I knew it because I had held it as a child. I had slipped it onto my own fingers in secret. I had seen it glowing under the bathroom light when she thought no one was watching. And I remembered the last time I saw it. 7 years ago. The morning she vanished. My mother, Celeste Moreau, walked out of our townhouse in Marseille without a word. No note. No phone call. No sign of struggle. No goodbye. Just gone. The authorities found nothing. My father fell apart. I aged 10 years in one. The media had their theories, but I never believed she left of her own will. And now, her ring was in Damien's hands. I forced a smile. I even laughed. It's beautiful, I whispered, my throat dry. He slid it onto my finger. My hand trembled. The metal felt cold, colder than it should have been in that golden light. I tried not to look at it again, but the weight on my hand was unbearable. I thought I might vomit. That night, back at his villa, I sat in the bathroom with the lights off and the door locked. I held my hand up to the moonlight and turned the ring over, checking every curve of it, every scratch. It was hers. There, inside the band, barely visible unless you knew where to look, were the initials. CM to CLM. My father's engraving. Celeste Moreau to Christiana L. Moreau. She had told me once it was a wedding gift from my father, customized on their 2nd anniversary. Only 2 people alive knew those initials. One of them was missing. The other was me. So how did Damien get it? I stared at my reflection in the mirror. I didn't recognize the woman looking back at me, engaged, polished, adored. But underneath that, there was a daughter with shaking hands. There was a woman who had just realized. She might be sleeping next to a man who knew something about her mother's disappearance. And she had no idea who he really was. The next morning, I told him I had an early meeting. I didn't. Instead, I took the ring off my finger the moment he left the villa to pick up wine for our celebration dinner. I placed it gently in a velvet pouch and zipped it into the inside pocket of my tote. My hands were sweating. There was only one place that could confirm what I already suspected. I drove 2 hours to Aix-en-Provence, to my father's old law office. He hadn't practiced in years, but I knew one thing about Henri Moreau: he kept records. Of everything. Especially of things that hurt. The office was dusty. Deserted since his stroke last spring. The receptionist had been paid to keep it clean, but it looked like a place time forgot. I found the key to the back cabinet in the bottom drawer, exactly where he used to keep it. That's where the personal folders were. And it was there, between brittle papers and aging contracts, that I found the original receipt. Marceau and Amp, Phils, 1991. Custom engagement ring. Gold band, emerald center, vine motif. Engraving, CM to CLM. Identical. No doubt. My mother's ring. I felt my stomach twist, the truth clenching in my chest like a vice. On the drive back, I kept playing the same thought over and over. Why would Damien have it? Not a replica. Not a coincidence. Not a family heirloom like he claimed last night when I joked about how familiar it looked. No, this was a lie. I didn't want to believe the worst, not yet. I wanted to believe there was some explanation. Some missing link. But then I found the photograph. It was buried deep in an old photo album of my mother's that I kept stored in a plastic bin in the attic. One I hadn't opened in years, because it hurt too much. And there he was. In the background. out of focus, barely visible. But him, Damien, leaning near a drinks table, watching. At a gallery showing from at least a decade ago. My mother, beautiful in white linen, stood at the center laughing, surrounded by guests. She didn't seem to notice him. But he was looking at her. Or rather, staring. I dropped the photo. My throat tightened. He knew her. He lied to me. My hands shook as I picked it up again. I turned it over. There was a date. October 2015. 2 years before she vanished. And now, he was proposing to her daughter with her missing ring. I wanted to scream. I wanted to drive to his villa and demand the truth. But instead, I reached out to someone who hadn't heard from me in years. Marcella Vane. My mother's oldest friend. A woman my father hated, which always meant she knew more than she was supposed to. She met me at a small cafe in the 7th district. Her hair was grey now, and she wore her usual red lipstick, faded, cracked, unapologetic. She didn't hug me, just looked me over and said, "You look tired." I showed her the photo. I didn't say anything. Her face fell. Then she whispered, "Oh God, it's him." "Who?" I asked. Her hand closed over mine. "That man. The one who used to follow her." I told her to report it. She never did. Said it was just a coincidence. But he showed up everywhere. Paris, Nice, even once in London. Always behind her. Always just watching. My mouth went dry. I pulled out the ring and placed it on the table between us. Marcella recoiled. "Where did you get that?" "He gave it to me," I whispered. "When he proposed." She stood up so suddenly the chair screeched. "Christiana, listen to me very carefully. You need to get away from him. Now. Before it's too late." I didn't go home that night. I told Damien I was feeling unwell and had checked into a hotel near the marina to rest. He offered to bring soup. I told him not to. I needed space, I said. That part wasn't a lie. Because space was the only thing keeping me from asking him the one question I was burning to scream. "Where did you get my mother's ring? And what the hell did you do to her?" Instead, I went back to my childhood home. The one I'd been avoiding ever since my father was moved into full-time care. The place still smelled like lemon oil and old paint. I crept into her room. Everything was the same, down to the perfume bottles still gathering dust. And then I remembered something. My mother's old phone. It had been locked in her jewelry drawer since the police returned it after the investigation. No SIM card. No charger. No answers. But I still had it. I brought it with me that night, without knowing why. At the hotel, I searched for a battery replacement shop. Just one place agreed to attempt data recovery. They told me it might take hours. I didn't sleep. I didn't eat. I sat outside on the curb like a child waiting for a school bus that might never come. At 5:12 a.m., the technician handed me a flash drive. "There's one audio file recovered. That's all." It was dated the morning of her disappearance. My heart beat so loud I couldn't hear the world around me as I pressed play. "Christiana, if you're hearing this, it means I couldn't stop him. Damien, he isn't who he says he is. I found something. Something dangerous. And now he knows I know. I don't have time to explain everything, but I need you to be careful. Don't trust anyone. Not even the police. He's close. Closer than you think." I dropped the phone. The entire room tilted sideways. My mother's voice, frantic, trembling. Her last words recorded, warning me. From the past. From a time I was still in college, trying to move on while she was disappearing piece by piece. She said his name. She knew him. She feared him. And now he was in my bed. In my life. Slipping rings on my finger. And I'd let him. At sunrise, I followed him. I didn't tell anyone. I couldn't. I needed to know where he went when he wasn't with me. I needed to know if the monster in my mother's voicemail was the man smiling beside me in all those recent photographs. He left his villa on foot. No car. No phone calls. He walked calmly, like someone going for coffee. But he didn't go to a cafe. He took the walking path north of the cliffs, the one locals call the edge of the earth. It was wild and overgrown, scattered with vines and trees shaped by sea wind. At the end of that path, maybe 2 kilometers in, was a shuttered hunting cabin. One I had never noticed before. He unlocked the door like it was his. I waited. For 2 hours, I sat hidden beneath the overhang of an olive tree, watching. No one came. No one left. Finally, I crept closer. The door wasn't locked anymore. I pushed it open. Inside, it was dark. Dust hung in the air. Mismatched furniture, a single desk, and shelves lined with binders. But what made my blood go cold was the small wooden chest tucked under the window. I knew it instantly. It belonged to my mother. I dropped to my knees and opened it with both hands. Inside was the emerald hairpin she used to wear on opening nights, her pearl earrings, a journal with torn pages, and at the very bottom, her necklace, the same one she was wearing in the last photo ever taken of her, still smeared with dried blood. I couldn't breathe. I staggered backward, knocking over a stool. The sound echoed like a gunshot. I grabbed the necklace and fled, running until my lungs gave out and the sunlight nearly blinded me. That night, Damien texted, "Did you get some rest? I missed you. I have a surprise for you tomorrow." I stared at the screen, my hands still covered in dirt from the forest floor. He didn't know I'd seen the truth. He didn't know I'd found the last pieces of her. He still believed I was his. But tomorrow, I would stop pretending. And I would start digging into everything he thought he'd buried. The next morning, I wore the ring again. I needed to pretend. One more time. Just until I had what I needed. I met Damien on the terrace of his villa. He was already waiting. Shirt pressed, breakfast set, champagne chilling in a bucket like we were still celebrating something pure. He greeted me with a kiss on the forehead. "You look rested," he smiled. "I am," I said. And I meant it. Because I had made my decision. I'd emailed the recovered voicemail and photos to a private investigator in Avignon. I sent the GPS location of the hidden cabin and its contents to a contact at the local precinct. But I didn't tell them to move yet. I needed to hear it from him. I needed to look him in the eye and let him speak the lie one last time. Over croissants and soft classical music, I asked the question gently. "Where did you get the ring, Damien?" He paused. Then, just as calmly, he said, "It belonged to my grandmother. I thought I told you that." I nodded slowly. "That's funny. Because I found a receipt yesterday. With my parents' names on it. From 1991. He blinked. Once. No emotion. "I don't know what you mean," he said. "Okay," I whispered. "Let me be clear." I placed a printed photo between us, the one of him in the background of my mother's gallery event. He didn't flinch. Then I took out the necklace. The blood had been cleaned. But I left a trace, just enough. His jaw clenched. "Where did you get that?" he asked. Voice low. "Different now. Same place you left her." He stood suddenly, the chair scraping. "You broke into something that didn't belong to you?" I stood too. That necklace belonged to my mother. Just like the ring. Just like the life you thought you could create out of her absence. And that was when I saw it, just a flicker. The shift in his expression. The mask slipping. "Christiana," he said, calmer now. "You don't understand what your mother did." I froze. What she did? She was going to destroy my family. My father's entire business. She came to me with threats. She wanted to expose him. Because he was laundering art, wasn't he? I said. His silence confirmed it. She wanted to go public. I begged her not to. I told her she was making a mistake. But she didn't care. So I warned him. I just warned him. That's all. What did he do to her? He looked away. "I don't know," he said. "Don't lie to me again." He didn't speak. And in that silence, I understood everything. He may not have killed her. But he let her disappear. He let it happen. And he covered it up for 7 years. He found me years later. Pretended it was fate. He built a life on silence and shame, because he thought I was broken enough not to question it. But he was wrong. The police arrived within minutes. I had told Detective Lyons to wait until I gave the signal. My hand on the necklace, that was it. They arrested Damien without struggle. His eyes never left mine. Not when they cuffed him. Not when they read his rights. "You loved me," he said, as they pulled him away. "No," I replied. "I mourned you." "That's different." The body was found in a dry well beneath the cabin. My mother's bones were buried in silence, but not forgotten. The DNA matched. The locket in the box was hers. The final page of her journal, smudged with fear, was entered into evidence. She had died for telling the truth. And now, I would live by doing the same. 6 months later, I left France. I moved to Montreal, changed my number, changed my name. But I didn't run away. I rebuilt. I opened a non-profit arts fund in my mother's name. One that supported female artists exposing corruption and injustice through their work. I wore no rings. I kept her necklace in a frame above my desk. Clean. Restored. Safe. Sometimes I think of that sunset, of the cliff, the gold light, and the man who thought he could rewrite history with a proposal. But I'm no longer the woman who said yes. I'm the daughter who said enough.